ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायस्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी ओमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनं शलाकचक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 10, Verse 21. Rakshapati Swabalanashthim Rushta Aruhya Yanakam Athabhisasara Ramam Swasyandane Dyumati Matalino Panite Viprajamanam Abhanan Nishitai Shurapraihi. Thereafter, when Ravana, the king of the Rakshasas, observed that his soldiers had been lost, he was extremely angry. Thus, he mounted his airplane, which was decorated with flowers, and proceeded toward Lord Ramachandra, who sat on the effulgent chariot brought by Matali, the chariot driver of Indra. Then Ravana struck Lord Ramachandra with sharp arrows. So, Yuddhakanda in like one verse. So, all the details have been dropped. So, yeah, by that time, so many warriors come to fight, and then Indrajitu, he binds Rama and Lakshmana in that what is that snake weapon which binds them. Yeah, and then even so then Rama and Lakshmana become unconscious. Then Hanuman goes to get Sanjeevani, etc. All those things have happened now. Finally, so this is at the end actually. The end, Indra sends his chariot with his driver Matali. So till then, Rama and Lakshmana were fighting, were on the standing on the ground and fighting. Now, when Ravana came on his Pushpaka Vimana, so he came on his airplane. So then Indra, all the demigods are seeing the fight and they're saying, no, 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 this is not fair. Ravana is in the sky, Rama is on the ground, so we should also give him some vehicle. And then he sends his chariot. And Mahatali is his chariot driver. So then there is fight which happens. Of course, not much time. Right? I think next verse possibly is done, I think. Okay, so there's some conversation. Ramastamaha purushada purishayanna kananta samaksham asata pahrita shvavatte त्यक्त्यत्रपस्य फलमद्य जुगुप्सितस्य यच्छामि कालैव कर्तुर्य अलङ्घ्य वीर्यः. Lord Ramachandra said to Ravana, what is the sound of music outside? You are the most abominable of man-eaters. Man-eaters because he's a Rakshasa. Right? Rakshasa mean man-eaters. But he's the most abominable. Indeed, you are like their stool. Once there is already Ravana was compared to urine, now stool. You resemble a dog. For as a dog steals eatables from the kitchen in the absence of the householder, in my absence you kidnapped my wife Sita Devi. Therefore, as Yamaraja punishes sinful men, I shall also punish you. You are most abominable, sinful and shameless. Today, therefore, I, whose attempt never fails, shall punish you. Purport. Nacha Daivat Parambalam. No one can surpass the strength of the transcendence. Ravana was so sinful and shameless that he did not know what the result would be of kidnapping Mother Sita, the pleasure potency of Ramachandra. This is the disqualification of the Rakshasas. Asatyam apratishtam te jagadahur anishwaram. The Rakshasas are unaware that the Supreme Lord is the ruler of the creation. They think that everything has come about by chance or accident and that there is no ruler, king, or controller. Now, obviously, people don't think about it like this explicitly, but that's how they deal with the world. Like there is no controller. They want to do things independently, whatever they want to do. Indirectly, they're saying there's no controller. And atheist scientists, they'll explicitly say there is no controller, there's no creator, right? Hmm? Therefore, the Rakshasas act independently as they like, going even so far as to kidnap the goddess of fortune. So, this is the characteristics of Rakshasas. that they are that they act independently, which is the reason why, to prevent ourselves from being Rakshasas, what should we do? Huh? No. What should we do to stop being Rakshasas? You have to give up your independence. That's what it's saying. No, Rakshasas act independently. So if you want to stop being Rakshasa, give up independence. How do you give up independence? Diksha. So initiation is the process when one gives up his independence. Otherwise, we remain Rakshasas. Of course, we can be Rakshasas, we can be Asuras, we can be anything. What is the difference between Rakshasas and Asuras? What is the difference? Rakshasas are man-eaters. Asuras are everybody else who is not a devotee of Krishna. Everybody else who is not a devotee of Krishna is an Asura. So Rakshasas have special characteristics. Their diet is slightly different. But otherwise, they're all against the Supreme Lord. They don't want the Supreme Lord. This policy of Ravana's is extremely dangerous for the materialist. What policy? Kidnap goddess of fortune. How are we kidnapping goddess of fortune? Yeah, by using it for our service. Actually, Prabhupada somewhere says that how can you use somebody else's wife in your service, right? Because the wife of Narayana, so she should be used in Narayana's service, not in our service. So sinful. It results in sin. Naturally, it's not like just using Lakshmi is not sinful. If you use it for even neutral Varnashrama activities, it's not sinful. If you use it for sense gratification, it becomes sinful because sense gratification itself is sinful. Yeah, so it brings ruin to the materialistic civilization. Nonetheless, because atheists are Rakshasas. Okay, so Prabhupada, the Rakshasas are atheists. Huh? No, anybody can be atheist. Rakshasas can also be atheists, Asuras can also be atheists, but they don't have to be atheists also. As even without being atheists, they can be Asuras because they'll not trust Krishna. They'll think that, okay, some God is there, but he's order supplier. He has to give us whatever we want, right? And that's his job. Our job is to ask him. His job is to give us. Anyway, they dare to do things that are most abominable, and thus they are punished without fail. Now, abominable means not as per Shastra. If we do actions which are not as per Shastra, it is abominable. But of course, for devotees, Krishna specifically says, अथ चेत सुदुराचारो भजते माम अनन्य भाग साधुरेव समन्तव्यः सम्यक् व्यवसितो हि सः क्षिप्रम भवति धर्मात्मा क्षिप्रम भवति धर्मात्मा. So क्षिप्रम means very quickly he will become dharmatma. Who? Even one who is doing some sinful activities, even after being a devotee, if somebody is still doing some sinful activities, but If one is dedicated, fixed in the service of Krishna, Kshipram Bhavati Dharmatma. Very quickly he is going to become a Dharmatma. So Krishna says, Sadhu Reva Samantavyaha. You treat him as a sadhu, even though he might be doing some nonsense. Now, obviously, people who are in devotees who are in Sattva Guna, they can't understand how devotees can do nonsense, isn't it? But devotees like me who are not in Sattva Guna, we do nonsense. But then we have hope. Hmm. Kshipram Bhavati Dharmatma. At least our dedication to serve Krishna and Guru uh, will hopefully bring us out of nonsense and position us on the Sattvic platform. But it's weird. Hmm. This is the characteristic of Kali Yuga. That one can be a devotee and at the same time he can be a part-time asura. Uh, yeah, but devotional service is very, very powerful. So we should not doubt power of devotion. So it will bring us out, but yeah, but we should not fuel it. Hmm. So Rakshasas, they dare to do things that are most abominable. Now they do things most abominable because they want to do. They like to do. Not because of compulsion, because of previous anarthas, vasana. For them, that is life. So they get punished. So they are punished without fail. But for devotees, because devotees don't want to do things intentionally, just because of previous karma, vasanas, etc. Sometimes, devotees are forced to do things which are maybe not considered so nice, maybe considered abominable also. But Krishna says it's okay because they are seriously engaged in devotional service. The qualification is that we are seriously engaged in devotional service. Once some press reporters came and told Prabhupada somewhere, saying, Prabhupada, your disciples are always, we see that they're always fighting and, like that. Somebody came and told Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, okay, that's not something, that's not news for me, right? What is news for me is that they're still chanting Hare Krishna. Which means it's a characteristic of the material world to have nonsense in our hearts. But the important thing is that we continue to serve Krishna, continue to chant Krishna's name with love and affection, then these things will go off. Religion consists of the orders of the Supreme Lord, and one who carries out these orders is religious. One who fails to carry out the Lord's orders is irreligious. Now, most people who go to temple, do they have any idea about the Lord's orders? No, they have no idea. They have no idea. So, technically, they cannot be considered religious. Externally, they are religious. That's all. Of course, instead of going into a pub or some nonsense place, they're going to a temple, which is good, but no qualification. It's not some high qualification that people just go to temples. Many people say, "Oh, Ulimau, there are so many temples." I said, "Yeah, but there is nobody to bring them to the right path. Bringing them to the right path is only ISKCON. Nobody else can do that. Others think, yeah, you come, take arti, put donation in undi, do some puja, go then do nonsense, enjoy." But we say, no doing nonsense. Come in and learn not to do nonsense. So, which is why ISKCON's position is very different. That's why Prabhupada never said that ISKCON is a temple. What did Prabhupada say about ISKCON? Prabhupada said ISKCON is an educational institution. So, our work is to educate people. And not everybody wants to be educated. So, obviously, we'll have very few people. Hmm. But still, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, gave us Kirtan. So maybe some people get attracted to Kirtan. Then there is Prasadam. So there are different ways by which we try to purify souls. But eventually it is education. Eventually we have to educate them. We have to teach them what is right, what is wrong, what they need to do, etc. One who fails to carry out the Lord's orders, he really is irreligious and he is to be punished. What to do? एवं क्षिपन् धनुषि सन्धितमुत्ससर्ज बाणं सवत्सम् इव तद्धृदयं बिभेद सोऽसृग्वमन् दशमुखैर्न्यपतत् विमाना धा धाहेति जल्पति जने सुकृतीव रिक्तः. After this rebuking Ravana, Lord Ramachandra fixed an arrow to his bow, aimed at Ravana, and released the arrow, which pierced Ravana's heart like a thunderbolt. Upon seeing this, Ravana's followers raised a tumultuous sound, crying, "Alas, alas, what has happened? What has happened?" As Ravana, vomiting blood from his 10 mouths, fell from his airplane. Just as a pious man falls to earth from the heavenly planets when the results of his pious activities are exhausted. That's it. For all that nonsense Ravana did, right? 1 second he was done. Finish. That's all. Simply, this is the life of asuras. So much of nonsense they do, and at the end, Mrityu Sarvaharas Chaham. Krishna just comes as Mrityu and just takes away everything. But still they are proud. There are other, one asura goes, another asura comes up, saying that now I'm going to take up his position. But they can't see that they're also going to end one day. They also have to die. Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Kshine Punyam Arthelokam Vishanti. When the results of their pious activities are exhausted, those who have enjoyed in the heavenly planets fall again to earth. The fruitive activities of this material world are such that whether one acts piously or impiously, one must remain within the material world according to different conditions. For neither pious nor impious actions can relieve one from Maya's clutches of repeated birth and death. Somehow or other, Ravana was raised to an exalted position as the king of a great kingdom with all material opulences. But because of his sinful act of kidnapping Mother Sita, all the results of his pious activities were destroyed. So this is very important. Right? Lanka was made of gold, literally. Right? Like you get a chair is made of gold. Everything is made of gold. It's like so opulent, so opulent. Uh, and in general, people who are born with such opulence, they don't lose their opulence overnight. At least it takes 1 or 2 generations. Their next generation will spoil some more. But Ravana's case, what happened? Everything he lost, right? Why? Because of the big offense, great offense that he did. Mm. So, which is why we have to be very careful dealing with Vaishnavas. Of course, now I have to use caveat in whatever I say. I say something like this, then suddenly everybody will zip their mouth. I'm not going to talk to any Vaishnava from now on because I have to be careful. Because if I speak, then I'll offend Vaishnavas. So then they will zip their mouths. No, uh, it's not that, loving relations between devotees has to end with the fear of committing offense. Offense happens when somebody is offensive. When you want to be offensive, then you will offend. You don't want to be offensive with everybody. You want to be offensive with in certain cases, somebody, we might talk about somebody or we might those things we have to control, not to comment about other people, not to talk about other devotees, but doesn't mean that we stop loving relationship between devotees. That's not devotion at all. What is devotion without devotees? There's no devotion without devotees. Devotion means devotees, and devotees means devotion. So that's how it's supposed to be. So we have to be careful dealing. We have to be careful. Now what happens? Sometimes there are devotees who knowingly or unknowingly commit mistakes. Now, those who are conscious, who are reading Prabhupada's purports every day, they should be conscious. And when we are conscious, we will not, in Hindi there's a saying that haath mein haath milai, meaning we will not join them in the clap. Meaning we will not encourage whatever they're doing, nor will we offend them. We will not offend them. We will not encourage their offensive nature. And we will try to maneuver things into a little bit more Vaishnava direction, right? If you are conscious. So, which means, for example, somebody is offending us. There are two ways we can react. One is we offend them, right? Or we just take that as Krishna's mercy and see what we can learn from it and move on. If we're able to do the second thing, then we will not offend them, though they might offend us. But if we also offend them, or if we become callous, we don't treat them as Vaishnavas, then we will also become part of that Vaishnava Aparadha. That we have to be careful. That is one thing which we have to be careful. Why? What happens is when things are all good, we are all in our best of behaviors, isn't it? When things get little nasty, is when our inner nature will come out. Hmm. And that has to be curbed. We have to curb that. We cannot say, no, no, this is my nature, I'll just let it go. This is my nature, so I can't tolerate nonsense. So something happens, I'm going to just speak. Yeah, but not with Vaishnavas. And even if you have to speak, then there has to be a way in which it has to be spoken. Hmm. Better say if there is offensive environment being created, just don't contribute. Just keep quiet and just hear whatever is being told. So that you can process it later, and then if you don't know, then talk to other senior devotees and figure out how it has to be handled. Because if immediately we also contribute in the conversation, then it will result in an offense. Automatically, right? Because we become too engrossed in that situation and we forget that we are Vaishnavas because our material nature takes over. So we have to be careful. Careful, So, of course, what Ravana did was the worst possible thing, right? He kidnapped Sita Mata. But yeah, there are others also which can be a different gradations of offense. Yeah.
Happening like that, if someone, we can step out completely.
We can, if we step out, it might be rude. Then they'll think, what, you don't want to listen to what I'm saying? So you have to just, easiest, I mean, if you have the humility for it, just fall at their feet and say, please, we can discuss some other time. Maybe there are others. If there's nobody, then you hold their feet and make them sit and then try to understand what is their problem. How we have contributed to it. Sometimes what happens, we don't know how we have contributed to a situation. We always just think, no, no, I'm fine, I'm right. Others have only made mistake. So then we'll go into justification. But before we justify, we should also try to understand, okay, was I the cause for you to say whatever you said? So if so, what did I do? For understanding. Then we should understand, then it's perception. So maybe you didn't mean to say that, but that person understood it that way. Then we should not try to explain, saying, no, 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 actually I didn't mean that way. And we should understand now that means that our behavior is prone to interpretation. So now we have to understand, saying that how can I behave in such a way that I will not be wrongly interpreted? This is how we have to learn. Yeah, which is why I always say, situations are only to teach us. We don't have to, what? We don't have to feel bad about something that has happened. And what will we do then? Going. We don't have to do that. What we have to do is we have to just see what we have to learn from a situation and learn. And sometimes learnings are very deep. They'll not be in the surface. Not very easily accessible also sometimes. And that's what we need to focus. Not saying, Prabhu, this person said like this, and that only will be going in our head, right, for many days. That's not Vaishnava. That's material. That's material. So it's not very difficult. We should just not get too affected by what devotees are saying. Look at it constructively. See if there's anything to be learned. If suppose, of course, the other devotee is actually making some mistake, which is going to affect that devotee's devotion, then bring it to the authority. Bring it to authorities. Okay, don't get too involved and end up. I told you, see, most of us, we don't progress in devotion not because of anything else, just because of this nature of talking. We don't know how to deal with devotees. That's our biggest problem. And unfortunately, the training is not there in ISKCON. Devotees are trained to chant Hare Krishna, devotees are trained to read, devotees trained to do all that, but they're not trained to deal with devotees. And because of that, devotees end up doing Vaishnava Aparadha. Obviously, we can't make progress. Okay, it is therefore advised that one transcend pious and impious activities and remain in the pure state of freedom from all designations. Sarvopadi muktam tat paratmena nirmalam. This also, when somebody tells us something, if we are feeling bad, that means we are still in some upadi. We are thinking of some material position, meaning we are thinking in connection with the body. Only then will we feel bad. Right? If you are thinking on the platform of soul, we will not feel bad. We'll understand, okay, I got a nasty body and a nasty mind. Okay, let me see how to fix it. when, when one is fixed in devotional service, is above the material platform. He should be above the material platform. Now, of course, when Prabhupada says statement like this, we cannot take it for granted. We might be fixed in devotional service, but not fully on the spiritual platform. Meaning, when you're doing devotional service, you're on the spiritual platform. When we're not doing devotional service, then we'll come down to the material platform. So we have to raise to the stage where we are always doing devotion. And even if we are doing something which is not directly devotional, we should still remain on the devotional platform. Uh, mm, for example, somebody is working, going to office and working. Now, it's not direct devotional service. If at all we are giving some Lakshmi to Krishna, then at the most it is indirect devotional service, Mishra, Bhakti. Now, when we are in that atmosphere, we should not come down to material platform. So that's a challenge for all working people. I used to struggle with this heavily. I had so many people reporting into me, and then they do nonsense, they don't do their work, and then how do I deal with them? I should not disrespect them, I should respect them, still get work done because I have a responsibility. It's very tough, very tough. But that's the effort of a Krishna conscious person, right? As in all the time struggling, saying, how do I better my relations? How do I better my dealings with others? Which is why I keep saying, fortunate are the souls who can be, especially Matajis who are sitting at home and can do full-time devotional service. But then they don't have entertainment. So they want to gossip. And for men, there is enough entertainment at work, right? So everybody has their own problem to deal with. Uh, Somehow we have to remain on the spiritual platform all the time. That's the challenge. That's the challenge. Sometimes devotees think, okay, I'm doing some material work, I'm doing housework, which is material. No, it's not material at all. It's totally spiritual. Your house is a temple, then it's spiritual. If your house is not a temple, then it's material. Right? Anyway. On the material platform, there are higher and lower positions, but when one is above the material platform, is always fixed in a spiritual position. Ravana or those like him may be very powerful and opulent in this material world, but theirs is not a secure position. Because after all, they are bound by the result of their karma. Karmana daiva netraya. We should not forget that we are completely dependent on the laws of nature. Prakriti krayamanani. One should not be proud of one's exalted position and act like Ravana, thinking oneself independent of material nature's laws. So, and Bhagavatam says, amongst Janma Aishwarya Sutta Shri, Aishwarya is the most intoxicating. Money is the most intoxicating, more than position. Because position means, okay, only few people will get position, but money, everybody can have even without having position. So then they're not even worried, right? If somebody has a position, then they'll worry, okay, if I do something like this, what will happen? If somebody has opulence and no position, they can just like do whatever they want, right? So it's the most dangerous, most intoxicating. Prabhupada gives the example of who in Krishna Lila? Intoxicated by wealth. Who in Krishna Lila was intoxicated by wealth? Who got cursed?
Manigriva, Prabhu.
Nalakuvara and Manigriva.
Nilakuvara
Right?
and
So they were intoxicated by wealth and they were cursed by Narada. And Prabhupada says in that, saying that, this is the most intoxicating of material opulences is wealth. And which is why Kunti Maharani says, Kinchana Gochara. You are more easily accessible to the Akinchana, who doesn't have anything material. And Prabhupada very nicely writes in that purport that he can feelingly call out to Krishna. Feelingly call out to Krishna means what? No, I don't want to imitate. Okay, feelingly call out means the way we do japa. The way we do japa should be a feeling call to Krishna. That's japa. To just come to this stage of understanding, saying that it's a feeling call out to Krishna will take us years of sadhana. First we'll say, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, finish. Then slowly we will start, okay, Krishna, Hare Krishna. So we have to feelingly call out Krishna. That's the whole idea of chanting. Now I'm decided saying that I'm going to have one uh, chanting seminar, which is only one line. Feelingly call out Krishna over seminar. What else needs to be said? Nothing else needs to be said about chanting. Just feelingly call out Krishna's name. That's all. If you don't have feeling towards Krishna, figure out how to develop that feeling. That's all. That's all of devotional service in a nutshell. Anyway. Thereafter, all the women whose husbands had fallen in the battle, headed by Mandodari, not Mandodari, Mandodari, the wife of Ravana, came out of Lanka, continuously crying. They approached the dead bodies of Ravana and the other Rakshasas. Cannot just finish this. Striking their breasts in affliction because their husbands had been killed by the arrows of Lakshmana. The women embraced their respective husbands and cried piteously in voices appealing to everyone. What is the use of crying after somebody dies? Oh my lord, oh master, you epitomized trouble for others, and therefore you are called Ravana. But now that you have been defeated, we are all defeated, for without you, the state of Lanka has been conquered by the enemy. To whom will it go for shelter? Ravana's wife Mandodari and the other wives knew very well how cruel a person Ravana was. The very word Ravana means one who causes crying for others. Ravana continuously caused trouble for others, and when his sinful activities culminated in giving trouble to Sita Devi, he was killed by Rama. O greatly fortunate one, you came under the influence of lusty desires, and therefore you could not understand the influence of Mother Sita. Now, because of her curse, you have been reduced to this state, having been killed by Lord Rama. Not only was Mother Sita powerful, but any woman who follows in the footsteps of Mother Sita can also become similarly powerful. There are many instances of this in history of Vedic literature. Whenever we find a description of ideal chaste women, Mother Sita is among them. Mandodari was also very chaste. Similarly, Draupadi was one of the five exalted chaste women. As a man must follow great personalities like Brahma and Narada, woman must follow the path of such ideal women as Sita, Mandodari, Draupadi. Reading it again, as a man must follow great personalities like Brahma and Narada, a woman must follow the path of such ideal women as Sita, Mandodari, and Draupadi. By staying chaste and faithful to her husband, a woman enriches herself with supernatural power. It is a moral principle that one should not be influenced by lusty desires for another's wife. Matravat Varadareshu. An intelligent person must look upon another's wife as being like his mother. This is a moral injunction from Chanakya Shloka. Matravat Paradareshu Paradravyeshu Loshtravat Atmavat Sarvabhuteshu Yap Pashyati Sa Panditaha. One who considers another's wife as his mother, another's possessions as a lump of dirt, and treats all other living beings as he would himself, is considered to be learned. Thus, Ravana was condemned not only by Lord Rama but even by his own wife Mandodari. Because she was a chaste woman, she knew the power of another chaste woman, especially such a wife as Mother Sita Devi. Oh, pleasure of the Rakshasa dynasty! Because of you, the state of Lanka and also we ourselves now have no protector. By your deeds, you have made your body fit to be eaten by vultures and your soul fit to go to hell. One who follows the path of Ravana is condemned in two ways. His body is fit to be eaten by dogs and vultures, and the soul goes to hell. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Tanaham dvishata kruran samsareshu naradaman kshipami ajasram ashubham asurishva eva yonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, Krishna says, I'll cast them into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Thus, the destination of godless atheists such as Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, Dantavakra is a hellish condition of life. Mandodari could understand all this because she was a chaste woman. Although lamenting for the death of her husband, she knew what would happen to his body and soul, for although one cannot see directly with one's material eyes, one can see with the eyes of knowledge. Pashyanti Gnana Chakshusha. In Vedic history, there are many instances of how one becomes godless and is condemned by the laws of nature. Okay, how many more verses? 30, 29. Oh, still a lot more out there. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Okay, I'll stop here. 29, we'll continue tomorrow. I thought we came to the end, but looks like there's more. Okay, so I'll stop here. If anybody has any questions, comments, you can feel free.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
చెప్పండి. Can't hear you. Hare Krishna. Vinod Prabhu, not able to hear you. Okay, anybody else has anything to say?